Senator Ted Cruz, now it was just last week when we approved some new tax relief, and I know you're calling for more tax relief. Beto voted against bills in the House last week that would provide more tax relief. Explain a little bit there.
Well, that's exactly right. And if you remember back to last December when we passed this historic tax cut, at the time, Democrats, their talking points, I remember the week after the tax cut, Bernie Sanders went on national TV. He was on CNN with Jake Tapper. And Jake said, well, Senator Sanders, this cuts taxes on virtually every middle-class taxpayer in America. Isn't that a good thing? And Bernie said, well, of course it's a good thing. The problem is, this is Bernie speaking, the problem is it's not permanent. The individual tax cuts aren't permanent. I saw that. I took the clip. I tweeted it out. I said, Bernie, I completely agree with you. Let's join together. Let's make the individual tax cuts permanent. You and me together. I just filed legislation to make the tax cuts permanent. If we team up, we can do it this week. Now, unsurprisingly, in the wake of that, it was absolute crickets from Bernie. He didn't say a word. Well, last week, the House voted on legislation very much like the legislation I filed to make the individual tax cuts permanent.
Now, at about an hour from now, they're going to have that cloture vote in the Senate for Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. I'm pretty confident, 110%, you're voting thumbs up. Give us an idea how this will proceed. I mean, does that start the 30-hour clock that prevents the filibuster, and we could have a vote sometime Saturday evening? Is that correct?
That's exactly right. The vote that is likely the most critical is the one that's happening in about an hour at 10:30, and it's the cloture vote. I believe we'll have the votes. I think we will have the votes in an hour. If that happens, then a 30-hour clock starts, and that means the final confirmation vote is likely to be sometime tomorrow afternoon.
Have you had a chance to talk with Jeff Flake, Joe Manchin, those swing votes? Have you had a chance? How do you think they're going to go?
You know, I've spoken with them. They have not committed. They haven't said anything in stone. But I think we're going to have the votes, and I think we should have the votes on the substance, because if you look at the process, if you look at the results. Number one, it's clear that the Senate Democrats have been just playing political games with this from the beginning. The allegations from Dr. Ford, Dianne Feinstein, the ranking Democrat, had them on July 30th. They sat on her desk for months. She did nothing. She didn't refer it to the FBI, which she should have. She didn't refer it to the full committee for an investigation and hearing, which she should have. And critically, if she had done that, that's the right way to do it. The committee has processes in place to have a confidential hearing. Dr. Ford said, please keep this confidential. We could have had a closed hearing. We could have heard it in confidence. Instead, the Democrats sat on it for months and months and months, and then on the eve of the nomination, leaked it to the press, and they outed Dr. Ford against her wishes. I think it was cruel what they did to Dr. Ford when she asked to keep it confidential. The Democrats apparently valued partisan politics more than honoring her wishes. That resulted in Dr. Ford and her family being dragged through the mud, and it also resulted in Judge Kavanaugh and his family being dragged through the mud. That was wrong. That was shameful. But at the end of the day, we had a hearing last week. We saw extreme partisanship from the Democrats. We heard testimony. Dr. Ford was given a full and a fair opportunity to tell her story. I believe that was very important. I urged that. I think it was very important that she be treated with respect, and she was. But I also think it was very important that Judge Kavanaugh be given a full and fair opportunity to defend himself. And he should have been treated with respect as well, and sadly he was not.
You think he went too far? Did he lose his temper a little bit too much that day, or does he have anything to apologize for?
Look, I think he clearly got angry, but I understand why he's angry. This is a man who has a wife, who has 2 young daughters. His daughters are hearing Democrats screaming and calling him a gang rapist. And some of the allegations they're repeating from clowns like this Michael Avenatti, the Stormy Daniels lawyer. I mean, they're just the allegations are so extreme, and yet they're being repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
If you're looking at your daughters while those allegations are being trafficked by the Democratic Senate, you'd be pretty angry too. And so I think you saw some very real and human emotions. But I think we also know from over a decade as a judge that he has the temperament to be a judge, and he has proven to be an exemplary judge. So we know exactly what kind of judge he'll be. because he's been doing that for over a decade.
Senator Ted Cruz, we're up against the clock here. I know you've got to run as well. You're about an hour away from that cloture vote. I appreciate you very much joining us here on the Todd and Don Show. Thank you very much, sir.